Hello and welcome everybody. Good afternoon on Saturday the 8th of November. So this is our session on volunteering. We've got a great panel in front of me. First of all, my name's Katrina Kennedy. I'm the interim head of therapies at Poole Hospital, but I've been writing and been involved in writing the AHP Quick Reference Guide to Volunteering, which, if you're interested, you can access on the Health Education England website. On there as well is 15 amazing case studies to explain how people have involved AHPs in volunteering. So we are in a different world. With COVID, it has made things much more difficult for people to volunteer in one way, and particularly in the NHS. However, in the community, the volunteers have been extraordinary. And I've just heard, I think, on Twitter yesterday that there's been over 1 million volunteering actions have occurred since COVID began. And that's fantastic. And just a bit about myself. So I was at boarding school, and when I was at boarding school, I was a St John's ambulance cadet. So I volunteered as a cadet and learned how to do all basic first aid. But we used to go to cross-country events, all sorts of things. And it really shaped me into the physiotherapist I am now. The other thing I did was we went to a special school on Wednesday afternoons or Saturday afternoons and spent time with the children, taking them swimming and horse riding. And that really helped to shape my handling skills, my understanding of diversity and inclusivity, and that everybody needs to be have the ability to do things they enjoy. So that's the sort of background on my personal volunteering. However, what is the benefit of volunteering for you listening to this call today? So it's about the ability to offer your skills without reimbursement, but absolutely as one of the 5 steps to health and well-being. Giving is really, really important, and we all get absolute joy from seeing others improve. So if you want to reference and see a volunteering guide, there's also the Helpforce website has got some training for volunteers. We have posted all the actual reference for these in the virtual exhibition booth if you want to find that. Otherwise, I'm sure the technical team might be able to post some of the links for you. So the other thing I was going to talk about is this session is really about what is volunteering and how can it be useful for you in your careers, and perhaps what are the top tips. So I've given a bit of an overview of my perception, and I'm going to come back at the end. But as you can see, we have 7 other great people on this call. So I'm next going to go to Lorna. So Lorna, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a bit about your volunteering experiences?
Hello, yes, thank you. So my name's Lorna Dunsire. I am an occupational therapist and I'm the lead OT at Bradford District Care Trust. I work on the acute mental health wards with a team of occupational therapists. And volunteering's been really important for me personally in my own experiences and in becoming an occupational therapist myself. So I volunteered kind of whilst I was at university. I volunteered for a local mental health charity, mental health and employment charity called the Cellar Trust in Bradford, and kind of supported people who were going through lots of difficult experiences, were wanting to get back to work, but weren't really sure how to do that. So I was kind of working alongside key workers in the charity, but in a volunteer role. And I learned so much about how you support people, developing that therapeutic rapport. And it was volunteering can be difficult because it's thinking about how you can best bring your skills and support somebody, but you potentially kind of hearing some difficult stories, working with people who are going through really difficult parts of their lives. So that was kind of really inspiring for me, seeing how people were kind of supporting people from a mental health perspective within the charity. From that, I developed skills that really, I guess, other people who were newly qualified maybe didn't have those same skills. So I had the opportunity to be able to say I'd kind of worked with that charity, and so I think that gave me kind of a better stance when I was applying for jobs as well. Excuse me. So I was really interested in kind of working in mental health as soon as I qualified. From my placements at university, I really enjoyed working in mental health services, and so that extra experience really helped. So that was kind of my own personal experience of volunteering. The other side to what I do now in my kind of day-to-day work is that obviously I'm responsible for leading the OT service in acute inpatient services, but I also support development of a new kind of volunteering structure within the mental health hospital. So we have a volunteers team, a volunteers service within the trust, and a volunteer lead who manages and supports volunteers coming in kind of lots of different roles within the trust. But I've worked with them to develop some pathways to have volunteers kind of getting different experiences working with people in the hospital. It has been it was stopped when kind of lockdown first happened, but we're looking at rolling that back out and supporting the volunteers to come back to hospital. But in our volunteers kind of experiences on the wards, we've got 3 pathways generally. So we have 3 types of volunteers. We've got volunteers who are wanting to give something back. So they tend to be people who are maybe retired and looking to have other ways of spending the time. And they bring a lot to the mental health hospital when the cafe is open at times outside of the pandemic. They are there to kind of support patients to engage in different kind of games, board games, chess. We've got a chess volunteer who comes in, and the patients find that so meaningful and enjoyable to be able to just sit down and have a conversation with somebody else and that connection. Then we've got the professional pathway for people who are wanting to progress in their own kind of professional capacities, gain skills and think about gaining kind of professional employment themselves. And then we have the recovery pathway of volunteers who are people who've been service users themselves on the wards, maybe have experienced what it's like to be a patient in the mental health hospital, but have got to a point where they feel a lot stronger. They've worked on their own recovery and they want to support people to get better themselves. And so they're a real example of hope. Those different types of volunteers all bring really brilliant skills to the service.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Thank you, Lorna. Really, really great. And what would be your tip for those that are listening to us today on how to get into volunteering in your hospital?
I think connection and conversation is a really powerful thing. I think it's important to discuss. So to make contact with the volunteer lead, and to think about the skills that you can bring as an individual, whether that's a special interest that you've got that you'd like to share with other people, and to have that conversation with the people who are delivering those services to see if the skills and abilities that you have could kind of provide and meet a need that exists within the service. it's important that you don't do anything outside of your own abilities, but having those conversations and saying, I've got this kind of interest or this skill that I'd like to see if I could offer, and
Brilliant.
ask.
Fantastic. Just ask. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Lorna. That was really great insight. So can we move on to Chloe, and can you introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everybody, I'm Chloe Rich. I am an operating department practitioner, which is a little known profession to the wider general public, but also within the hospital context. So we are a profession that specialises in providing high quality care to patients undergoing surgery, so throughout their surgical journey and also in critical care areas. Now, unfortunately, this is an area of healthcare that poses a great risk in some of the developing countries around the world, but it's also an area of healthcare that we need to continuously improve and focus on in high resource areas such as the UK. So my two volunteering projects centre around improving patient safety outcomes and improving patient care and experience in general. So I volunteer regularly for two charity organisations. One of them is called Future Health Africa, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a second. And the other one is Safe OR, which is an initiative that stands for Safe Operating Room, and it brings together lots of healthcare professional organisations with a multidisciplinary approach to try and provide education and training worldwide. So Future Health Africa, to start with, involves a 10-day trip to Kenya mainly, and this is a trip based with a group of multidisciplinary professionals such as ODPs and surgeons, anaesthetists, physiotherapists and radiographers make up the main bunch of our trips. We go out for 10 days and we provide free healthcare, free surgeries to people that need it the most in these rural regions in Kenya. Now, obviously, doing an operation and providing free healthcare makes a huge difference to people's lives. It changes people's lives dramatically. That's obvious. I hope you can all get that point. But I'll give you an example. We recently did a child that's 7 years old and he was out with his father. His father was a nomad, so fixed, no abode, no home. Rural region, and got trampled by a cow and broke his femur, broke his hip. Now that injury, by the time he came to us in clinic, was 3 years old, and he'd been walking around on this broken hip for 3 years old because nobody in that area of Kenya had the education, had the resources, or had the training and specialism to fix it. And very much they couldn't afford healthcare because they were nomads. They were just pastoral nomads that roamed the region looking after their flock and looking after their livestock. So came to us, fixed it in a matter of hours, which is amazing, as you can guess, and it completely changed his life. He could go back to being a normal 7-year-old boy again, go back to school, do whatever he wanted to in the future. And he actually said, I want to be a doctor when I grow up, which, you know, is pretty amazing as it is, and I hope he eventually does get into education and furthers that along. But just having the opportunity to get that healthcare and fix his broken hip, which in this country he would be done on the day. If a 7-year-old broke his hip, he'd be done with a matter of hours. This was 3 years down the line of agonizing pain. So that's some of the really big impact things we do. But what we really focus on in this charity is very much a two-way learning approach, side by side, working with the local staff to try and leave a very sustainable service, to try and leave resources there to educate, to train, and to improve their basic patient safety initiatives, such as identification of patients to make sure they're operating on the right person, making sure they're counting everything that goes into a patient and comes out of a patient, and just providing them with key safety initiatives so that they can try and operate and provide healthcare for some of these more basic surgeries. And orthopaedic trauma is a focus because it's about a third of their patients that are being admitted to hospitals with orthopaedic trauma. They either get trampled, they fall over, or they get burned, for example, using open pit fires because they cook and work around open pit fires. So we do a lot of orthopaedic trauma. So there's Future Health Africa. Safe OR. Now, this is trips that go all around the world. And again, it brings together a multidisciplinary team, surgeons again, anaesthetists, ODPs and theatre nurses. And we're focusing on bringing multidisciplinary teams together to train together. We feel if teams train together, they perform together. and they perform much better together. So we bring them together for tailored educational workshops about perioperative care and safety. And when I say perioperative, I mean the journey of the patient throughout their surgical journey. So that's before they even get to the hospital. That's pre-anesthesia, anesthesia, surgery, and post-anesthesia, and then onto the ward. And we need to make sure that we are training people to break down some of the main barriers we see worldwide. And that is how teams work together. So communication, breaking down hierarchy. And the trips are so rewarding. I've just come back from a trip in India. We did 2 projects, one in the centre in Mumbai and another in a very rural region called Nanded in Maharashtra state. And I took a lot away from this trip because it was very much focused on the non-technical side, breaking down those barriers and the hierarchies. And it's what I wrote my volunteering guide case study on, number 14 in the guide that Katrina referred to. So go and read about it. I could talk for ages, but I'm not going to. But I absolutely love both of my projects, and it brings so much to me, to my career, personally and professionally. I feel humbled to be a part of it. I feel like I truly make a difference, and it makes me a better ODP. It makes me a better person. And are you going to ask me about my top tips now? Is that the next question? Well, shall I just answer it?
No, precisely. And I think it's, it really highlights, actually, some people do have gap years where they go to Africa and build, things, but actually you can, when you're a professional, also go and volunteer and make a huge, huge difference to people. So thank you. But yes, quick top tip would be great.
Building on what you've just said, if you're going mid-career like I am, so you're not brand new, you're in your career, you're consolidated, you're a registered professional, for example, I would say one of my top tips is make sure that you are confident and you're consolidated in your own knowledge and skills, because when you step into an environment that is highly low resource and it can be very intimidating if you're not really confident in what you do and what's normal for you and in your basic job. Seek out the opportunities. They are there. They are needed, but they're not generally advertised widely. And go into the projects with open minds, flexible minds. And just remember, you can learn as much from the local people that you work with than they can learn from you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Chloe. So, Belinda, it's your turn.
My turn.
Introduce yourself and off you go.
Hi there, I'm Belinda. I'm an occupational therapist. I work on a neuro rotation. So I either work with in a hospital with people that have had a stroke, or my other role is going out with them when they've done their hospital time and they managed to get home. I help their rehabilitation, help them work towards their own goals. And I find it a really, really rewarding career. I find that OT in general, you do have to think quite flexibly, and you very much have to be a people person. You have to get people on your side. You're working with them towards one of their goals, yes, but equally they have to understand why you're doing it. And sometimes things can be a bit repetitive. To get somewhere, sometimes things have to be a bit repetitive. So you have to build that rapport. So when I was looking to become an OT and looking for volunteering opportunities, I was thinking, okay, so I very much need to think about being a people person, and how do I show that? How do I show that I can think flexibly, and things like that? And how can I show that I can work with a wide range of people? So I looked at what I wanted to be and what I needed. So I am currently a volunteer within Girl Guiding. I am a unit leader with a group of 30 odd girls between the age of 11 and 14. So that's one of my roles. It means that I have to be very organised. I have to work with the parents as well as the children, and I have to think really flexibly about what I'm doing. Can I adapt this activity to meet the needs of the group and to individuals? Because we do sometimes have people that have different needs and different problems. I was able to use my experience as a unit leader to show also leadership qualities. So it's helped me to climb the ladder within my career as well. Because it may be that when you're first starting out in your new career, that you haven't had so many opportunities to show that you can lead people and you are thinking above just what you're doing in yourself. So being able to show that in my other role, I have these skills, it then shows that you may be able to go up the ladder a bit more. I've also volunteered in the past in day centres and care homes, for example. Again, just showing that I can work with a range of different people. It means that you can get used to working with people that have dementia, for example, how best to interact with them and to draw the best out of them. And remembering that they are people, they're not just their disease. You get to know the people as well. We can sometimes find in our roles that we are very busy and that, you seem to have to do one thing after another and keep moving quickly. And it's very easy to forget that these are people that we're working with. So I find that my volunteering very much brings me back down to being able just to sit and have a conversation and a cup of tea with someone, or just do a jigsaw puzzle with someone. That really brings you back to these are people. So yeah, I think volunteering is a wonderful thing to do. It not only helps our community, but as said before, it helps us. It makes me feel good knowing that I've helped people. You can also use it to help apply for jobs, to show those skills that aren't necessarily clinical skills, but are the more soft skills, the people skills. And you can use it to help climb the ladder as well, to show other opportunities where you've used other things.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Belinda. Now, can I ask, what would your top tip be to people to get into, volunteering, or even into the Girl Guides?
Yeah, I would say look at what's available in your area, and as said before, look what actually inspires you. So I like the Girl Guides because you can do all sorts. I'm a really crafty person, so I was well in there, but also they go camping, they do all sorts of activities. And the Scouts as well, you do absolutely loads, and you have opportunities to meet people from other countries as well. You can interact with so many different people. So my top tip would be find an interest that you have and see if you can build on that elsewhere.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. So, Louise, it's your turn now. Over to you.
Thank you. So, I'm coming at this so much more about giving back. So, I've volunteered all my life, and in previous jobs, I actually worked for charities. So I worked for Comic Relief, and so volunteering is in my DNA. And now I feel like it's the chance. Instead of running volunteering, I'm actually giving back my skills to my membership organisation. So I'm a drama therapist, and we're a tiny profession, and so I'm on the executive of the British Association of Drama Therapists, to use my communication skills I got in my previous career, and that I obviously use as a drama therapist. And at the moment, one of the things that I'm really proud of is that we are leading a COVID creative therapy response at the moment, to see if there's a way, working with Health Education England and the quality improvement staff, to see if we can use drama, music and art therapy to support the mental health of staff who are right in the front line right now, and I'm thinking of them as I speak to you, to help them cope with what they've dealt with in the future without risking their professional face. Because that's the wonderful thing about creative therapies, is that you don't have to talk about what's going on for you. So moving on, the reason I'm in the guide, or the work that I do is in the guide, is because I work with people who can't speak of their problems in very complex mental health situations, in early intervention in psychosis, where people have effectively had a breakdown, but they can't say why. And often those people are really so anxious. The thing that they most need is the thing they can't do. So they want to join a group and be with other people and get their confidence back, but they can't get there. And what has been amazing is getting people who have been through that process, lived that experience, come out the other side feeling confident, to get them involved in that person's recovery. So when we run groups, we do a lot of work to get people into the groups. They have 6 sessions, and one of those sessions is with someone who's already done it. So they're a service user further down the line, and they give that person a belief that it's going to be okay if they join that group. And they're there in the group with them throughout the process. And that has made it possible for people to come who otherwise absolutely, I don't believe, would have done it. But also what's exciting is that those people are then feeling really, it's almost like embedding their improved mental health, because they can see themselves as valued members of society who are contributing, giving something back. And what's exciting is some of those people are beginning to think and taking roles in the NHS in mental health, because just because they've had a mental health blip, that isn't an obstacle. In fact, it's the opposite. It gives them so much compassion that they're actually using their lived experience for the benefit of others. So it's a lovely virtuous circle. And I did want to, if it's all right, I just got some top tips from a slightly different perspective. I think it's an opportunity to create a new culture quickly. I think the really important thing is to remember that the people who are volunteering often know more about the organisation than you do, and using that and learning from them is just a revelation. So you can really quickly alter the culture, but those people need proper support. So my one top tip is to never think that having a volunteer programme is a replacement of staff, because you've always got to remember those people are giving their time, and there's got to be something really in it for them, even if it's a hot meal that they wouldn't otherwise have, or a bus pass. It could be something really practical like that, or it might be that they need real flexibility because they need to go on holiday a lot to see their family. So you've really got to put yourself in the mind of the volunteer and not create structures that you might be used to creating for staff.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for that, Louise. Really, really good. And because drama therapy is such a different profession, how would youngsters, perhaps people that are doing drama at school or drama at college, how do they get into being a drama therapist? Just really briefly, just because you're such a rare breed, and I'd like to use your experience.
Yeah, I think that, you know, it's a really big conversation because it is a problem. You know, we work at the margins, so it's not like you can witness what we do, because that would be disrespectful to the people we're working with. I think it's a real issue. I don't have an answer, but I do think that the one thing I would say, which is true for everything, when people ask me that, I say, figure out what population you want to work with, whether it's, you know, what people excite you, because being
Children
a drama therapist.
Or adults. Yeah. Brilliant. Thank you so much. Right. We have Janet and Robert still to go. I think we might have almost used up our half hour, but I'm sure it's fine for us to carry on this morning today, because it's been obviously quite technical for others. So we're going to go to Janet next.
Thank you. First of all, I just want to say happy OT week to Belinda. I'm a physio, so I just want to do a shout out. So my name is Janet. I'm a rotational senior physiotherapist at Chelsea and Westminster Hospital in London. As you can tell probably from my accent, though, I'm not from here. I'm from Canada originally, where, just like you, Katrina, I got my first taste of true volunteering through St. John Ambulance. I would call myself an ambivert, and I was on the more introverted side growing up, hiding underneath tables when someone said my name and stuff like that. And St. John Ambulance really helped to bring me out of my shell. I got the opportunity to compete through St. John Ambulance, develop skills through St. John Ambulance, not only just practical skills like first aid, but also soft skills, common sense, and interpersonal skills, which then helped me to broaden myself and get out of my comfort zone. That's going to be my top tip. Just a heads up, is to push yourself out of your comfort zone, which is one of the reasons, for example, why I live in this country, because I wanted to get out of my comfort zone. I also volunteered in summer camps. So I think this is more of a North American thing, where our kids will have breaks, for example, during your version of half-term breaks or our spring breaks, and also during the summer. During those times, I volunteered in camps that tended to be geared towards children with disabilities, whether they be physical or mental disabilities. So, for example, some of the children I worked with had Down syndrome or organ donation or hematological conditions, and just trying to build their confidence. Also, because in Canada, physiotherapy is a master's degree. So I did my degree in human kinetics first, or kinesiology. And during that time, I paid to go to school, working as an intern as a student kinesiologist at an occupational rehab center. So these are for people who had injuries from work. And during that time is when I finally got to work directly with the physiotherapist. In my head, I thought I wanted to be a physiotherapist because, one, I was a first aider and I really enjoyed that. And then two, my other extracurriculars were sports. And so I thought that was a perfect combination when I was 15 years old. And then I realized that physiotherapy is so much more than just sports. And this is by going to my bachelor's degree, I started to realize that. I learned about physiotherapists who work with NASA, so astronauts. I learned about physios who work in cardiac rehabilitation and in intensive care units. So actually, when I got into physiotherapy school, I started looking into critical care, and that's where my passion lies now. So ideally in intensive care, but I'm a rotational member, and I've gotten the privilege of working in multiple areas now. For example, in the burns unit in Chelsea and Westminster Hospital, I've worked with amputees, I've worked with trauma and orthopedics, and now I'm currently in pediatrics. I think the thing about volunteering is that it makes you a more confident person, but it also makes you a more well-rounded person. And as somebody who's been on a panel trying to interview people applying for jobs, and this would be the same, for example, if you had to apply to enter a program, it makes you a more interesting person and you stand out. So by having some kind of passion, as I think some other people have alluded to here, through volunteering, this is going to make you stand out and make you a more interesting person. It doesn't necessarily have to be related to your profession. In fact, sometimes it's even better because then it makes something else about. We love talking about probably all our own careers, but we also love learning things that are new. And so that's what I would like to just say. Push yourself out of your comfort zone, find an area of passion. But if it's not even a passion, if it's something interesting and you enjoy it, that's perfect.
Fantastic. Wow. It is. That's a really great insight and a lovely insight into your whole career up to now. So brilliant. So shall we move on to last but definitely not least is Robert. And Robert, tell us about either what you've heard today or your experience.
Right. Hello, everyone. My name's Rob Thomas. I'm an osteopath. I've been an osteopath for about 24 years now. And I got in because I was a professional cricket coach. I was heavily into sport before I did osteopathy. I got into teaching. So I'm an osteopath in private practice half the week. And I'm also an osteopathic educator at one of the osteopathic education institutes the other time. And as far as how did I get into osteopathy, and looking back at sort of my volunteering experience, my mother was a teacher of nurses. So she worked in a hospital. So my father did as well. And so I had some work experience in medical records, in outpatients. And that gave me a great idea about how to sort of communicate with patients. I was always interested in the human body and how it functions. So in a way, I was kind of interested in why people that were older couldn't move so well, and why people that were injured, how they compensated, how I could help them with that, if I was sort of assisting them along. All of those different things combined. I also was very interested in the human mind and psychology. So I did a degree in psychology, which led me into thinking about medicine. I was trying to think, how do all these things I'm interested in sort of fit into a particular package? Because a lot of people, when they're 18, 19, don't really know what they want to do. And don't worry about that, because you evolve. Even when you're in a career, you evolve, and you can follow your interests as long as you've got that sort of passion for that. So I always wanted to help people. Following on from what Janet said, there's a few things that resonate. You're saying about the sports side of things. everyone thought that I was going to be a sports osteopath. I've deliberately tried to keep my practice very broad, so I treat anybody from babies to, I had a 104-year-old chap last year. So I deliberately keep it broad because I want to, basically help as many people as I can, really. And I think osteopathy is a great way of doing that. It's just the application of your knowledge, and the courses are very, very in depth, covering all sorts of things from anatomy, physiology, pathology, orthopedics, pharmacology. Very, very in depth courses. So as far as the volunteering side of things, again, similar to what Janet was just saying, picking up on that, I do open days for the school and meet a lot of students coming in, a lot of people interested. I do talks at schools. And if people have done things within sport, or they've assisted coaches, or they've St John's Ambulance, or even sort of work, not just volunteering, or actually sort of work like pharmacies and things like that, it speaks volumes. It just makes somebody a much more rounded person, more interesting to talk to. And they have more to give. They've got a greater skill set. So those sorts of things are really to be valued and not to be underestimated. Currently, what we're doing at the moment I chair the patient experience group at the School of Osteopathy where I work, and we're looking at trying to involve the talking about volunteers. Our patients that are on that are basically interested in assisting us with the patients, with the students' education. So now we're trying to set up online fake case histories for these people to act as simulated patients, and they're loving it because they're saying, I'm normally out and about and now I'm isolated at home. So it's ticking a lot of boxes. So this sort of volunteering and working with others, collaboration is a massive positive thing, especially in this difficult time. As far as top tips, I'll just very quickly whiz onto that. Just say, be very open-minded. Don't underestimate what can be achieved. And remember that every day, every time you do something, every interaction is a point of learning. So maybe start a sort of reflective journal, and it would be interesting as you grow older, depending on your age. If you are younger doing this, you can see how you've come on and what you've learned. And I think a reflective journey or journal is a fantastic thing.
Thank you everyone for looking in and listening to our top tips on volunteering. I guess the key thing is to get out there and see what's out there, and explore what you can find.